Now then, let's discuss Weapons. Weapons is obviously a horror mystery movie written and directed by Zach Cregger. If you haven't seen it from the trailers already, it focuses around a small town being rocked by the disappearance of 17 children, all of which ran out into the night at exactly 2:17 a.m., and nobody has been able to find them since. What did I think when I first saw the trailer for this one? Was it just going to be your average horror movie that tries to make out there's something deeply sinister and supernatural afoot, especially concerning the children and their disappearances, when in actuality the real reason was something far more human and ultimately predictable? Or would it for once actually subvert my expectations in a way that a lot of horror movies just don't, and give us a powerful story that would actually flip the script instead of it just being generic cookie cutter and ultimately predictable? Well, for me personally, there are two places where this movie shines brightest. First is the fact that the movie is told from multiple perspectives instead of just one. Upon seeing the trailer, I just assumed the movie would be told exclusively from the perspective of Miss Gandy, the teacher we first see in the trailer, whose class has vanished. That isn't actually the case when you sit down for the watch. There are 6 characters total, and each has a surprisingly complex personality, with all of their stories ultimately being interwoven and told out of order. Obviously, the first is Miss Gandy, Justine Gandy, the elementary school teacher in charge of the class that went missing. Her segment of the story focuses on her guilt over the missing students and trying to protect the well-being of the one student in her class out of all the others that didn't vanish, a young kid named Alex. While trying to keep an eye out on him, or an eye out for him, despite being warned by her superior not to do so, as it's a breach of professional boundaries, she stumbles upon an unsettling situation that puts her in great danger and also makes her feel determined to find out what is going on and try to unravel more of the mystery, especially relating to Alex. The second character is a guy named Archer Graff. He's an architect for a construction firm and the father of one of the missing children. A huge portion of his storyline is spent dealing with the crippling fear and guilt around his son vanishing. You see a lot of that through interesting sequences. Dealing with that personal trauma is a very strong part of his story, and also using his skills as an architect to try and uncover the truth behind the missing children. He's researched Miss Gandy's background and found out that there's a lot more to her than there initially seems, leading him to be very distrustful of her. The next is Paul Morgan, a troubled small town cop tied into a very complicated relationship with Justine, the school teacher. He believes she's completely innocent of all wrongdoing and is way more intimately involved with her than a married man should be. Now, for context, a lot of suspicion is naturally put onto Miss Gandy surrounding those missing children because why only her class and why only the people under her care? Interestingly enough, though, it becomes a big part of Paul's story defending her. He also becomes involved with another character, a homeless teen, and is inevitably dragged far deeper into the mystery surrounding the missing children than he would like, and ultimately is put into a great deal of personal danger for it. You then have James, a homeless teenager and drug addict. His obsession with stealing to fund his habit leads him to break into a home in town where he uncovers some unsettling truths concerning the missing children. His story is tied very closely to Paul's, the troubled cop, and the two essentially end up, though an unlikely pair, involved very deeply in the missing children case, with one encouraging the other to look deeper and even trying to essentially claim the reward for any whereabouts surrounding the missing children. We also have Marcus Miller, pressured by Justine, I should say. His story revolves around trying to be a good, responsible principal. He wants to ensure the safety of Justine's only student that isn't missing, Alex, and his side of the story leads him to become acutely aware of Alex's home life, and eventually he becomes very deeply involved with the mystery too. And lastly is Alex Lilly, the only student in Justine's class not to vanish. He's the final character of the six. His side of the story is told last, and his tale revolves around his home life, dealing with the aftermath of his classmates vanishing, and he's ultimately the key and a binding thread that links all of the other characters' stories together in the end. Without his side of the story, things make a lot less sense. Obviously, with the story being told out of order, and several characters coming into contact with the truth of the disappearances and the force behind it, you can sometimes end up seeing the fate of a character from another's perspective long before you understand how or why it's happened. Yep, with this being a horror mystery, all of our characters do eventually, as you would expect, come in contact with the source of the power that has rocked the town. Some are drawn too far in to escape, and some do meet unfortunate ends. Yeah, not everyone survives. I'm not going to say who, and I'm not going to spoil the inner workings or the happenings surrounding the missing children. That's the biggest part of the story and what it does the best. So that will remain unspoiled. This is just a synopsis of where we are, really. Overall, though, Weapons is a fantastic horror mystery that works a treat at telling a story of complex, morally grey characters. It also does a great job at highlighting the powerful grief surrounding the loss of all the children and how that can affect a small community. It has plenty of scares, some psychological, others physical, and with a sprinkling of surprising gore. It's an absolutely solid recommendation from me, personally. It surpassed my expectations overall. I'm really happy to see it's absolutely smashing it at the box office. I personally wanted to see another movie do well in Megan 2. That unfortunately didn't do as well as I would like. I'm one of the few that enjoyed that one. But hey, Weapons is doing really well, so that's good for me. I have to give a huge thank you to my personal trainer for recommending this one during our gym sessions and for showing me the trailer too, because I likely would have missed the movie if not. And that is just a kind of synopsis, a bit of a lightly scripted discussion on Weapons and what you can expect and its characters. So, absolutely go and see it. Hopefully you won't regret it. I certainly didn't. I'll be buying it on physical media as soon as it comes out. I have been Silver. If you enjoy our little movie discussions here, leave a like and comment, and I will gladly do some more. I still need to do a movie review for 28 Years Later and Megan 2.0, so we'll get around to that. And I am also very, very happy that I was one of the first people in my town to actually watch this movie. I went to the very first screening of it in my town, and I was one of the very first people there, so it was a good time. Anyway, a special thank you to our channel members and silver patrons at the time of this movie discussion: Mr. Jonathan, Reese Free, Jay, Kota Okami, Jacob the Dabbler, Julio, The Relinquished, Marcus, Space Ghost, Benja Martinez, and my lovely lady Suki. It is very much appreciated. And, as ever, I have been Silver, your host. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, and I will see you again very soon. Take care, guys.